This afternoon to tell us more about the regional perspective is our colleague Wamundila Chilinda, a journalist from Zambia. Good afternoon, colleague, and welcome back to the land of the brave despite the prevailing circumstances.
Good afternoon and good to have me.
Before we get to your relationship with President Geingob, what do you make of the media landscape in Southern Africa, with specific focus, of course, on Namibia, but certainly also of your home country, Zambia?
Yeah, just like you rightly put it in your intro, Namibia is now ranked the first when it comes to media freedom. And so is a similar situation in countries such as ours, Zambia, South Africa, and a few others. So for me, I think we are making very good progress in that direction in terms of media freedom and working environment.
Did you ever encounter President Geingob?
Yes. The last time I was here, I think between 2012 and 2015, somewhere there, when I was attached here at the NBC. I remember I was working on a documentary following the death of the late Hage Gewingob, and I was trying to interview the elders who had gathered at the morning house when suddenly we were informed that the PM was around, and that's President Geingob at that time before he became president. And I spent some time to greet him and just to introduce myself. And the moment he knew I was from Zambia, we spoke for quite a long time. He told me a lot of stories about his stay in Zambia, and he told me about Zambian people. He actually told me Zambia was his second home, and he misses Zambia. He told me some of his friends that were still in Zambia and they were still in touch. He told me he was also a candidate for SWAPO that time, so we really had a very good interaction that afternoon and late evening, and that was my first encounter with the late president.
Are there other memories that you have of him, and could you also tell us about some of the stories you did on him and on Namibia?
Well, they're quite too numerous to mention, but I remember later on, I think we were having our Jubilee independence celebrations at Zambia, and we had a number of engagements with our parents who had lived in Zambia as a Zambian community that time, in putting together the function to commemorate that event, and we had a lot of interactions with the late president. Thereafter, when we lost President Michael Sata in October 2014, he was very instrumental. There were a number of activities at the embassy, at the residence of the High Commissioner, as well as at the memorial service at some church building in town. So some of those are just some of a number of interactions that I had with him. I remember again I came back into Namibia in 2019 because I've had a number of trips coming into Namibia, and I requested that I could have an interview with him. I think there were some stumbling blocks here and there, but I don't know how he picked it. And he managed to get in touch himself and said he was at my disposal, and anytime I wanted to have an interview, I shouldn't have a problem. So.
And the interview happened?
Yeah, and the interview happened. So he was a person that was very easy to get along with, and this is how I think, to me, I considered him as one of those presidents that I really got close to. Yeah.
And now you're here in Namibia to cover his official state memorial and state funeral. Talk to us about that experience.
I would say it's some kind of, for lack of a better term, a dream come true. Honestly speaking, that Sunday morning, for some reason or another, I was up around midnight, surfing through the internet and social media, when I saw some story by the Namibian newspaper, online story, suggesting that President Hage Gewingob had died. I couldn't believe it, because first of all, it's something that I never expected. Secondly, I think the last statement that I read was that he was stable. So there was really nothing much to worry about. And also, the last pictures that I saw of him, because I follow Namibia news so well, there was no indication that his ailment was something really to worry about. So it came as a shock, but after some time, after also confirming from the NBC digital pages and others, what came to my mind, two things. I wish I could have a chance to be part of the burial. Then secondly, from my interactions, earlier interactions with him here in Namibia, when he told me much about his stay in Zambia, I had a lot of interest in telling a story of his stay in Zambia. So since that time around, especially when he was elected president, I've been trying to gather information. I really wanted to have an opportunity to tell a story of what the late President Geingob did for Namibia while in Zambia. So I was already in the process of gathering something. And then when the news came, it was like, how I wish I had this opportunity to tell this story when he was still alive. And then it was from there that I think a number of engagements started. And then NBC noticed a few stories that I was sending, and some of the material that I had collected of his stay in Zambia from the archives and other sources, and also a number of interviews that I conducted with those that worked with him, those that were close to him, those that he helped, and so on. And then a phone call just came, said, no, we think you should come to Namibia and do a documentary on that, and this is what I'm working on right now. So I'm coming across information every second that is useful and new and surprising and adding up to the legacy of a very good sleeping giant.
We cannot wait to see that documentary. Thank you for your contribution in that regard. The fact is that this event that we're experiencing as Namibians for the first time ever is something that's not new to Zambians. Please tell us more.
Yeah, it's a very nasty experience to lose a sitting head of state. The first time it happened in 2008, when we had the late Levy Patrick Manawasa. This is a president who came through a party that I think people, not majority, really liked, the MMD party that time, when he was adopted as a candidate. So when he won, there was, I think, a good element of mixed feelings. So his first term, he proved that he was really a very good president. So his second term was kind of a walkover in 2006. So we were beginning to enjoy his leadership. We were beginning to enjoy the fruits of the economy after a number of years of sacrificing here and there. We were really moving in tandem with his policies when all of a sudden we were told the head of state has been flown from Egypt, where I was attending some summit, to France, and is in a bad condition but stable for some time, for some days, until finally news broke out that he had died. And it was a very, very nasty experience. It's painful, and for us as the media, we really need to be on our toes. It's day and night. There was so many changes to the program. I think the body was flown around the country for people in other provinces to...
But he, of course, died in France and not in Zambia.
Not in Zambia, yes.
So the body needed to be repatriated first.
First, yeah. So all those arrangements. I remember I was covering at a place where the body was turning to go into what we call Mlongoshi International Conference Center. So there were so many people who had lined up on the side of the road from the airport.
In Lusaka?
In Lusaka. From the stretch is about 20 kilometers, I stand to be corrected, 20 or slightly more, to where the body was going to lie instead. So I was at a place where now the motorcade was coming to cave now. There were so many people who wanted to catch a glimpse of the motorcade, and then just when that moment came, the entire crowd broke down. And then I saw, I think the youngest daughter, should be the youngest or second youngest daughter, Chipo, very young girl. The president loved that girl. They were singing in public many times, and I remember even going for school parent activities for that girl, little girl. So to see her alone in the car with other people, the father is not there, and just the emotions from the people that were around there, I equally broke down.
Sure.
It is a nasty experience. Even the second time when President Sata died, I was here in Windhoek, but it's still the same. So it's not an easy experience at all. Until it's done, until the burial is done, but then the situation continues. It's a big gap that can be filled. The only thing that I really feel is that probably he needed to know most of these stories that are coming out now. We thought we knew much about him, but we are getting different versions, getting different experiences. And this points out to one thing, we really had a very wonderful man, looking at the time invested for the sake of this country. He's really a hero.
What are we to do to honor his legacy in terms of his contributions to media freedom, both in Namibia, but also as far as the region is concerned?
Number one is to remember and to live by what he fought for. The people that I've interviewed, so many old people that I interviewed have called him a Pan-Africanist. He believed in Africa. He did not just fight for Namibia. When I'm sitting down editing the material for the documentary, I'm looking at his contributions dating back to 1965, 1967, 1968, and this is 2024. So here is a man who lived his entire life to see a better Africa, a better Namibia. There's no better way we can mourn President Hage other than upholding what he stood for. Look at his legacy when it comes to accountability, transparency. Look at his support for the young people. The other day I was watching on TV when one of the young governors that he appointed broke down when paying tribute. The other time, it's about the women, that so many of them that he appointed to positions. He touched many lives, and the best we can do to honor him is to live by respecting what he stood for.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your love for our country. This can be your second home, as much as Zambia was the second home for the late Dr. Hage Gewingob.
Yeah. Thank you so much, and thanks for having me.
Please keep us posted about the documentary.
Oh yeah, thank you so much.
Our Zambian colleague, Wamundila Chilinda, talking to us about his experience with the late Dr. Hage Gewingob, and very importantly, a documentary that he's working on that will depict the president's time in Zambia and how he completed his political career as a president in the Republic of Namibia.